Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's time for Come On Ref. I'm Chad Bryan. I'm your host. I'm with Ben Bales and Aidan Vance. Guys, say hello.
What's good,
Hello.
everybody? How are you guys?
Hopefully, everybody's good today. We got a pretty good show for you. We're going to go over, we've got to talk about the NFL draft. Obviously, we're going to talk about what the Browns did, who they got, who they didn't get, who we wanted them to get, things like that. We're going to go over how well we did on our mock draft. We had a mock draft a couple of weeks ago, and we tried to select, some just not for the Browns, but for different teams around the NFL. We'll see how accurate we were, and we unfortunately have to talk about the Cavs. We got to get to that. And near the end of the show, speaking of the Cavs, we're going to talk about sports failure and why we take failure so seriously as fans and even as athletes for that matter. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I thought there's an interesting perspective I want to get into. But first, let's talk about our mock draft, guys. How did we do? I mean, were we close? I mean, the Colts took a quarterback with that fourth pick. I mean, Ben had that right. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, just the wrong quarterback.
It's okay.
No
That's
doubt.
okay. The Cowboys took a tight end eventually, not with that 26 pick, but I guess I had that right that they were looking for a tight end, even though that wasn't a need.
Yeah,
You got there eventually.
Yeah. So
Chiefs
eventually they had to take some position, right? In 3 years, I would have said, "See, look, they took a tight end. I was right."
no
That's
doubt.
fine. So I don't know. I think we did okay. Aiden, how'd you do? I mean, what were were you close
I
on
had
any?
a tackle, but I had Dewan Jones go in the first round. He won the fourth.
Okay.
So, so not great. We'll see
Well,
though.
but wait. I mean, hey, let's see how it plays out. Let's watch. We'll come back to this episode in 10 years. We'll see how DeJuan Jones' career played out. Maybe you were right to have him go in the first round.
We'll see. We'll see.
We will see. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, man. How about that?
Yeah, hopefully.
So we know we had a pretty good draft. We had a decent draft. Hey, what about the Browns? I mean, did they have a good draft? Or they limited picks, right? They didn't have a first round. Obviously, they didn't have a second round. They were a little bit strapped, but did they still? I mean, they still got a pretty good haul, right?
No doubt. I love their draft.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman, I think, was a late first, early day two pick. If he doesn't get hurt,
Yeah.
if he's the number one receiver all year for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Really good player. He was the number one guy over Hyatt coming into the season. Early in the season, if you watch the pick game, that's who they were going to.
Yeah.
Siaki Akia, the defensive tackle from Baylor. I mean, just a plugger, man. I mean, he just plugs holes.
That's what they need.
That's what we need. So,
Yeah.
I loved it. Taking swings on guys later like Dewan. So, what do
Yeah.
you think?
I'm thrilled with like the volume of really good football players that they got right there in that third and fourth round. I mean, I feel like, and there were even some really, really smart picks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, you look at pick number 73, Cedric Tillman. You said it. I mean, he was Tennessee's number one option until he got hurt. And Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Jalen Hyatt's a fine receiver. Don't get me wrong.
No
But
doubt.
I think of the two, I think Tillman's the much better prospect. I think he runs better routes. He's obviously a bigger guy. I think he just translates a little bit better in the NFL. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of guys are using, smaller slot guys that don't necessarily run perfect routes, but they put them in good positions. So Hyatt's not going to have a bad career, but I think Tillman works here. Just especially, AFC North. I mean, we've said it for I don't know how many years now. Like, we need a big guy. We need that true X receiver, right? The 6'2", 6'3", 200-pound guy on the outside. They've got him. And hopefully, it's pick 73, but like you said, it's a great value pick. Hopefully it works out. And then Ika at 98 there. I mean, run stopper, right, Ben? I mean, we needed a run stopper.
Yeah, you guys did big time.
Yeah.
Especially after last couple of years the interior line for the Browns hasn't been great. So I mean, you yourself a run stopper. I mean, like what you're getting from Myles Garrett. You went out in the offseason. You picked up some defensive line help that's gonna help. I think the Siaki Ika one is not only is it for depth, but like Aiden said, he's a plugger. He plugs gaps, which is what the Browns needed.
Yep.
And I feel like he could be their sleeper pick this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's good, great football player, big guy in the middle. Some maybe a little bit bigger than sometimes you want your guy to be in the middle, but I mean, he doesn't play like he doesn't play slow.
No.
I think it's a great pick. And then you look at the fourth round. I mean, look what they did just the next round up, right? Pick 111, an absolute mountain of a man, DeJuan Jones. I don't remember the NFL executive, but someone asked him about DeJuan Jones and how the interview process went, and he didn't even say. He said, "This is the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life." You know what I mean? Like, DeJuan's a big dude. I mean, I don't see how that hurts if he can get his footwork down, if he can get his technique, and if he's engaged and fully focused here. I think he could be a great right tackle, a great piece over there. He's enormous. You know what I mean? He's just enormous. And then
Right.
Isaiah McGuire, I think, kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but I mean, he graded out really well. More of a power rusher. He'll probably need to. I mean, he's going to have to add some things to the arsenal a little bit to succeed in the
Yeah.
NFL. But I think he's a decent piece across from
If
Miles
you
Garrett. What do you guys think?
yeah. If you look, if you go watch Missouri versus Georgia,
Mhm.
there was nobody that gave Broderick Jones more trouble than Isaiah McGuire. So,
Yeah.
obviously, people had him going maybe in the third, second round. So,
Yeah.
another great value pick. Dewan, I like to. He was really locked in this year for Ohio State, obviously, and was, I'm pretty sure, a second team All American. So,
Yeah.
we just gotta keep him locked in. We have a really good O line coach in Callahan. Gotta make
Yes.
sure he keeps him on the right path, and then hopefully he can be a starting tackle for us someday because he's got the potential to obviously
Yeah.
be that.
Yeah. And we do this every year, I think, with the draft. We say, oh, this
No
guy looks
doubt.
great on paper, great on paper. But I do think you're right. I mean, with Callahan teaming up with Dwan Jones, I think Jones has a really good head start on his future. And like I said, as long as he's engaged and fully focused here, I think he can be a great one. I mean, I really do think that. Um, I guess not necessarily I mean, maybe an okay value pick. A guy that had 1 year as a starter in high school. They took in the fifth round here, Dorian Thompson Robinson from UCLA. Um, Quick guy, can make some plays with his legs, move a little bit, get out of the pocket. I think he's going to be a good backup here. I know the fifth round pick isn't guaranteed to make the team, but I think a guy like Robinson can stick here. I mean, just with his athletic ability, and then there's something else I want to get into with him. Another reason I thought this was a great pick. But do you guys like Thompson Robinson here?
I do.
Okay.
You said only 1 year starting in high school, but then he ended up starting games as a freshman all the way through. I'm pretty sure he played a redshirt senior year as a fifth-year senior. So
Mm-hmm.
he started a lot of football games and
Yep.
had a lot of experience at the college level, at the pack level. Won
Yeah.
a lot of games, helped turn that UCLA program around. Um, yeah, I like it as athleticism. It kind of fits what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Can develop into a really good backup for us. So I like the move.
Yeah.
I
Ben, what do
like
you think?
I like it as well.
Mhm.
And kind of if you look at the Browns quarterback room, you got Deshaun Watson, you got Josh Dobbs, Kellen Mond, and Dorian Thompson Robinson. What do they
Yeah.
all have in common? They can all make plays with their legs.
Yep.
I feel like if you get quarterbacks that are all very similar to each other, it's easier for all of them to learn from each other because they play the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's like you don't have one pure pocket passer that's trying to learn from a guy that rolls out to the right or or does
Right.
QB sneak.
Like when Lamar Jackson goes down in Baltimore.
Yeah.
What do we do? Right.
Yeah, like with the Browns, all four guys, like you could plug them in, and I'm not saying they're all going to be good.
Right.
You wouldn't have to change your offense.
Similar styles.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could keep the similar plays because they all can make plays with their legs. So I think in the future, if the whole Deshaun Watson thing doesn't work out, like you said, you have a guy that could potentially become a decent player.
Yeah, I think it could be a good backup. And the reason you're right, he did start a ton of games at UCLA, played a ton of football. The reason I brought up the high school thing, there's an interesting angle for me with this. Well, typically, quarterbacks don't only start 1 year. You see some guys. I mean, Roethlisberger did. He started 1 year at Findlay and went on to have an amazing NFL career. It's a little atypical, but the biggest thing for me is that our guys, Cedric Tillman and Dorian Thompson, they were high school teammates at Bishop Gorman, right?
Yeah.
So Thompson Robinson sat behind Tate Martell for a couple of years or whatever, and we know Martell was it maybe didn't work out, but he was high profile. I mean, they won a couple national championships. I mean, he played fine when he was there, right? There's a reason that Thompson Robinson sat behind him. I'm sorry.
He was a 5-star guy. Tate Martell was.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, there's a reason that it's not that Thompson Robinson isn't a good quarterback. It just there's a log jam there. It's a great program. But I like that Tillman and Thompson Robinson were high school teammates. There's some familiarity there, but I got to ask you guys, like, why does that matter in the NFL? Does it matter? Why does it matter? Does it matter?
I think it does because, like, if you're like, obviously they like Dorian Thompson Robinson, obviously, or else they wouldn't have drafted him.
Right.
But I think that's a guy that, like mini camp and like preseason games that you could see him going to in those situations. He could end up making the roster because of Tillman, because he's like, hey, I trust that guy. I'm going to throw him the football and be like, hey, wait, like, he's pretty good. Like,
yeah,
we should keep him.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Chad.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it matters more early on just with comfortability.
Yeah.
Just acclimating. You're acclimating with somebody else So it's not as big of a struggle. It's not like, oh my God, I'm doing this all alone. Like you got your homeboy with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really good for the both of
Yeah,
them.
I think it helps both sides. I think okay, so there's a couple schools of thought here, and I think my main school of thought is like what has been one of the problems with Browns drafts? Like we take these receivers wherever they are in the draft, and they never quite develop into, the full product on the field, right? For one reason or another. I mean, guys have different reasons. I don't want to get into all of it, but it just seems to, that's the trend right now, right? So you bring in a wide receiver at, in the third round, whatever, pick 73. Okay, fine. Tillman, you expect some big things out of him. Bring in his high school teammate, and they can feel good, they can look good together in rookie minicamp, right? Because, like you said, the familiarity. Thompson Robinson knows where Tillman's going to be coming out of his routes. I mean, even playing 1 year together, I'm sure they've put thousands of balls in the air together, right? I mean, they've played catch, they know each other. And I think it helps too that you've got some familiarity with the guy that could be your backup quarterback eventually down the line. If he does have to come in and make some plays, your number one receiver is now his high school teammate, and there's that friendship, there's that, that previous relationship. And I think it just, listen, Andrew Berry, we can't be the first people to think of these connections, right? Like, is he operating on a different level right now? I mean, is he just here?
I mean, I think he's like I think he could be on his way depending on how this Browns team ends up playing out. But like you got guys like Eagles GM, for example, Howie Roseman. That dude's incredible. The way he's able to pick talent, the way he's able to, and obviously give the credit to the scouts, because they're the ones that do deep dive into all the stats. But
sure,
he's the guy that
doing the groundwork,
decision, right? Yeah. Like so like I feel like yes, what Andrew Berry is doing is it looks like he's taking the Browns in the right direction. But it's like it's always hard for a new general manager. I mean, he's how many years in is he now? 3, 4?
Yeah, it's been long enough. I mean, here's the thing: he's going to have a good draft eventually.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's going to have one good draft.
And like right now, you're like he's pretty much handcuffed because he doesn't have a first round pick. Like it's hard to build a team without a first round pick. Like, especially if you're going to build through the draft, it's hard to build without a first round pick. Then this year or next year.
Yeah, but they may have gotten a couple first round value guys.
Definitely, no doubt.
Yeah. So. You do the best you can. I saw the Browns tweet, the draft day, we got our guy, and it was like Deshaun Watson. And I guess that was supposed to make us feel better about, not being able to watch we could watch the first round, but there was nothing fun for us to watch. Right. Well, Ben, maybe you had some fun, but yeah, I think that was that. But you have to understand, like if Watson does develop into what they hope he does, then that's okay. If he doesn't, then this was I don't want to say failure because we're going to get into that later, but this whole rebuild and this whole thing was a massive failure if he doesn't develop into that, right?
Yeah. Is he operating on another level? I don't think so.
I think he's close.
I don't.
And what I'm saying is I don't mean like is he the best GM in the league, because I think there are a couple guys that we could name. I mean, there are teams that just seem to go always get the right piece, and there are two of them unfortunately right here in our division. I mean, Ben, the Steelers are one, the Ravens are the other. Now the Eagles seem like they can't. They can't lose in the draft. Yeah. But what I mean with Barry is like, I just think that that secondary thought, like hey, we can't develop wide receivers. Why? We don't know. Let's bring in a guy that he's familiar with and just see if that helps. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just kind of spitballing or whatever. But if it works, it works, and it looks like it's genius down the line.
Maybe don't draft track stars that don't catch footballs.
Fair, Corey Coleman. Fair.
Or Anthony Schwartz.
Poor Anthony Schwartz, man. I want him to get on the field so bad.
So that's probably where I'd start with developing receivers, is draft guys who can catch a football.
That's fair.
David Bell has the athletic testing of the sophomore in high school. So, I mean, we're drafting on two ends of the spectrum of not being able to play at the NFL level.
I mean,
so maybe this is the first guy we drafted that can actually play at that level.
Perfectly fair criticism.
So, hey, I'm not here to judge Andrew Berry because he's had his good picks and his bad. Your first pick was Jed Wills, who hasn't worked out. You drafted Anthony Schwartz. So, and then you traded all your picks for Deshaun Watson. The reason Ben was talking about, you got to build through the draft with first-round picks, right? And I agree with him completely.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you can't do that is because you traded for a guy with 26 allegations and a guy that averaged 12 points when he started games this year. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes.
And going back to what I know it's not really related to the draft, but how much longer do you think Jedrick Wills has
this year?
Well, I mean, they picked up his fifth year, so I mean, you're not going to let a first round pick go for nothing. I mean, they're going to hold on to him and see if they can try. But
if he doesn't,
I think this is his last year to prove.
Yeah.
like at long-term stay, I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Like,
no, like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, because like obviously he's been hurt, right? Like injuries are part of sports. But when he plays, he's not good.
yeah,
Oh,
That's the thing. Like he ranks in like the bottom of like almost every run blocking and pass blocking. So it's like I get you picked the fifth year option, like Chad, like you said, like you got to give him a chance, right?
yeah.
But like if he doesn't do good this year, like do the Browns go tackle again next year? Like you almost have to, right?
They have to.
What are we doing that way?
They're going to have to, especially with. I mean, if they truly got their guy and they got their quarterback, I mean, you have to protect him. You got the weapons now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got 100 wide receivers, right? I mean, we've got all the wide receivers in the world. So.
But I mean, a quarterback's not good without protection.
No doubt.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that just, that in mind, that's fine. I mean, all that criticism I think is fair of Andrew Berry. He has not had an overall good draft since he's been here. Free agency, I mean, some moves, some trades have been savvy, whatever, but
No doubt.
let's just talk about this draft. I mean, who was the Browns' best pick? Or you don't even have to, this doesn't have to be three, just the most savvy or whatever. I mean, was there one pick to you that stood out as just something that was really, really high value, low round, something like that? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but what was the one pick for you?
The most glaring need was still interior defensive line for me, so
Mhm.
it was going to be Siaki Ikia
Mhm.
again. So
Yeah.
Just the guy, he moves really well. He's pretty sudden for his size. Obviously, he's 355.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was that big.
He's huge,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Super strong guy, can plug up holes with Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, that's if we can't stop the run with those two guys, then we really got to look at the linebackers we have, because I think they're going to take up a lot of double teams and a lot of other
Yeah.
things. So JLK and Anthony Walker and Jacob Phillips need to really step up this year. So
Yeah.
I love that pick just because of what it does for our interior defense line.
Yeah. Those guys, like you said, the linebackers should finally be freed up to, run around free and, assess some things and make some plays back there.
If he's that big, like that's one of those guys that like teams might just double team because of his size, which then frees up another offensive lineman who's going to be in a one-on-one situation.
Just Vince Wilfork right in the middle for the Patriots, right? Like, yeah.
It could be, but teams aren't going to leave Myles Garrett one-on-one. You're not going to. So it's going to leave your other edge rusher one-on-one, and he's going to have a perfect opportunity to thrive and get a bunch of sacks.
And that's where a power rusher comes in when you don't have to worry about the double team. You don't really, that's where McGuire can really thrive. So.
Yep. Yeah, and we also have Agobo Okoronkwo, who was signed, and he was a really, really good pass rusher.
Had the highest pressure. I think he had the highest pressure rate in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't forget about the guys they added in free agency too. I mean, obviously the draft is a thing, but don't forget about the free agency. I mean, it's
yes, he had the highest pressure rate, but he also only had 5 sacks. So I mean, he's getting pressures, which is good.
Sacks can be
misleading. I get that, but I'm just saying, but if you have that high of a pressure rate though, you'd want more sacks. I feel like, right?
Always, of course, but it also depends. Okay, is your interior defensive line pushing the pocket to make the quarterback drop, or is they're giving escape hatches on the other side? Because
I get it. I'm just looking at it from like a overall perspective, like
no doubt
for like a casual fan. Like you see, he had the highest pressure rate, but he only had 5 sacks. Like something doesn't add up. But like us diehard football fans, we're like, that doesn't attribute to like everything like you said. Like are they collapsing the pocket? Like giving the quarterback a space to run? Like it. Don't get me wrong, he's good. Obviously, if he had the highest pressure rate in the NFL.
And listen, that's kind of the knock on McGuire too. He has trouble like keeping contained sometimes. So I mean, I think maybe he's like a little bit of an overzealous rusher. Like the power rush, he tends to run by the quarterback a little bit, lose that contain. So you got to keep an eye on that. I mean, especially you're gonna play Lamar Jackson twice.
Yeah.
You got to keep contained over there too. So we can't just have him running wild. But that's also where you need the linebackers maybe to step up and make a play. You're probably going to spy Lamar, so who knows? Let's move around the league though. Let's get off the Browns for a minute. Were there any teams that like who helped themselves the most in this draft? I mean, was there one team or?
Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead, Ben. Yeah, go ahead.
It's going to sound biased, but I genuinely think Pittsburgh is one of
them. Yeah. Me too.
Another team I think that had a good draft was who was it? I think the Seahawks improved with the JSN pick. They got some value there.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't really think. Besides the JSN pick, I don't really think that they had an outstanding draft.
I like Witherspoon too for them.
Oh yeah. They had a decent draft.
They're okay.
Yeah, they had a good draft.
What do you think, Jed? What team do you like?
I mean, man, I'm going to stay right in Pennsylvania. The Eagles terrify me now.
Yeah.
They terrified me before. I mean, it's not like we don't have to deal with them unless unless the Browns get to the Super Bowl, which is, how that's worked out many years of existence. But Yeah, I just the Eagles are absolutely terrifying. Like how Jalen Carter, they just add to that defensive line, which was already just massively dangerous, right? Um, I don't know. I think it's the Eagles for me. The whole state of Pennsylvania did fine for itself in the draft. Honestly,
No doubt.
it did
Um,
fantastic.
I'm gonna
Um,
go out on a limb here and say the Texans, and the reason I'm saying the Texans is because they got
Yeah,
a cornerstone on each side of the football, right? They
my
got their
goodness,
franchise
yeah,
quarterback,
yeah, you got your
and
franchise
then you
quarterback.
got your franchise defensive end, which people might say is the second most important position in the NFL right now is a pass rusher, right? So,
yeah,
um, I think that was a big draft for them. Obviously, it takes a lot of cojones to trade up that high.
And
yeah.
speaking of,
So Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. I'm a C.J. Stroud guy. I thought he should have went first. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I don't care
It
about
sounds
what anyone
biased, but I think
says.
so
I
too.
like it. Obviously, I'm an Ohio State fan.
Mhm.
His processing looks fine on the field. The tape doesn't lie.
Right.
Um, they told he took a hard test against Georgia too, and he passed it with flying colors, and he should have won the game. So
Yeah.
um,
He
I
did
have
enough to
no
win. Yeah.
I have no issue with the Texans taking him at 2 and then trading back up for Will Anderson because that's setting your foundation. That's your two
Yeah.
leaders that should be going into the future with. So
and
I like that.
like
Yep.
going off what you said, like I love that pick, and especially with a new head coach, you need a cornerstone guy on your offense that is not going to be changing every year.
Yeah.
And not only do they trade up and get Will Anderson at 3, they also have another first round pick next year too.
No doubt.
So you could get another great guy on either offense or defensive side of the ball and help out either Will Anderson or C.J. Stroud. And it's
Yeah.
like the fact that you trade up to 3 and you still have another first round pick is just like they have a chance to be good over the next couple of years with the picks they have.
They can thank the Browns for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are. Here we are with a third round pick, but that's fine. Did any teams really stand out to you guys as having like kind of a bad or confusing draft? Like, did you look at anybody and go, like, what were they doing? What were they thinking?
Besides the Paris Johnson pick for the Cardinals, I don't think they really made much noise.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only guy that was good in my opinion for the Cardinals.
Yeah. I think didn't they moved down and didn't they acquire another first round pick for next year though?
Uh-huh.
And
Oh
that
yeah.
so I think that's kind of savvy. I mean, that maybe they're not thinking short term. Maybe they're thinking more long term,
See, I actually like the Cardinals draft because of what they did. They went from 3 to 12 to 6 to get their guy. So
I
they
mean, if
Yeah.
we're talking
got an extra pick.
yeah, like if we're
and
talking
they
about
did
short
decent.
term, if we're talking about short term, I don't think it's good, but long term, I think it'll work out for them in the future.
Yeah, I mean it's stacking draft picks. That's never
Yeah.
bad. I heard someone say, I don't like to trade up to get Paris Johnson. I don't know if I was thinking that maybe you didn't realize they traded down first. I don't know. I thought it was actually kind of a good move. I thought it worked out
No,
well
I
for
did
them.
too. Yeah,
Big fan. I'm actually not a hater of that draft. I think that draft was okay.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say.
To get back to teams that helped themselves, by the way, the Bengals I thought had a really nice draft. They
yeah,
replenished their secondary on the cheap. I like DJ Turner and his speed. I thought they did a good job too.
I didn't like the Cowboys draft. I didn't like. I don't think Mozzie was a first round pick.
no.
I think they kind of reached for him at 26 because that's what Michael wanted. Um,
Yeah.
I know they went and got a tight end later, which is good. I thought they could have got just another weapon in general for Dak, a receiver
I
or
think they should have.
a high end tight end that they could have gotten. But
Yeah.
I just think Mozzie Smith wasn't a first round guy. He doesn't like. I'm not saying this because I'm a Ohio State fan. Mozzie Smith is early second, mid second round guy.
He's going to be a really good player. Yeah.
Really good player,
Speaking,
but he's not a first round defensive tackle type guy. He didn't play with enough consistent effort at
Yeah.
Michigan. So I didn't love their draft.
There have been guys on that defensive line the past couple of years that have impressed me more than him. I think he's a good character guy though, and he will be a good player. But yeah, I think maybe a little bit of a reach in the first round.
speaking on what you said about him not being a first round pick, I saw a video of the Cowboys draft room, and everybody told Jerry Jones, "I don't think he's a first round pick," and Jerry Jones goes, "I don't care, we're drafting him." So it's like, at what point though do like when everybody's saying, "I don't think he's a first round pick," and then your owner goes, "I don't care, you're picking him." It's
Yeah.
like they're forced to just pick the guy because the owner said so.
No doubt.
So
Yeah.
it's like when all your scouts, your GMs, everybody is saying he's not a first round pick, like Aidan said, they're all like, we think we could get him in the second round,
Yeah.
and they took him in the first round instead. I truly think that messed up their draft. Now that I think
Yeah.
about it,
He was a little defensive about it too. I don't know if you
Right.
saw the quote. They asked him. He said,
Yeah.
who cares? We got our guy. Who
Yeah.
cares? First round, second round. Well, I mean, your organization cares
Yeah,
because
like when your entire
Yeah.
organization is telling you he's a second round pick, and you override it and say no, he's a first round pick.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Most
Hey,
teams,
listen, we know what it's like to have an overbearing owner. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
We got one right now.
yeah, you got to trust your football guys, right? Listen,
Our
speaking of
owner-
football guys, I want to ask you this: who was your favorite pick? Just you can do I don't know, best value. Who you think's gonna have the most impact right away? Just give me one pick, one team. Who'd you love?
For value, I loved Addy Tamawa, Addy Bare for the Colts from Northwestern at pick 110 in the 4th round. I thought he would be a second round pick type of guy. Uh, Northwestern played him at defensive end mostly.
Mhm.
I really think he's more of a 3-tech defensive tackle, make plays
Yeah.
from in there with his quickness and his speed. He ran 4.49 at 282 pounds.
Yeah,
insane.
I just think his ceiling is way higher than what Northwestern showed by playing at defensive end. And
yeah,
most impact, I think it's just, and you could say its value is Jalen Carter going at 9. I mean,
yeah,
there's a good chance like he could be the best player in the draft, and you got him at 9, and they went to
Yeah.
the team with the best roster.
right.
So the Eagles back on top.
Fair enough. Ben, what do you think?
I would say, I'd say the most impact. I think right off the rip, I think it could be. Obviously, I think it could be one of the quarterbacks. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. Preferably, I think it's going to be C.J. Stroud. Because, like Aidan said, I think he was the number one quarterback in the draft.
Okay.
Now he doesn't have many weapons besides Brandon Cooks, but I mean Brandon Cooks is still
He's on
good.
the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, never mind. He is on the Cowboys.
He's gonna have to throw it really far. He's gonna have to throw it really, really far to get Cooks.
I
Yeah.
forgot he's on the Cowboys, but
He doesn't have that big of an arm, Ben.
He doesn't have that many weapons, but I still think he can. Like you said, he's one of those quarterbacks that he can put the ball just about anywhere. So it's like he's going to make receivers look good. And then I think the best value, like Aidan said, it's got to be Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Like it could be the best player in the draft, and you got him at 9. Like that's a steal.
I agree. I'm gonna go. I just want to say, biased. I love the DeJuan Jones pick because I think he can be a Pro Bowl right tackle if he gets he's got to get his stuff together, right? He's got to get his head's got to be on straight. He's got to be all in. But I think he could be a perennial Pro Bowler. I don't know. I think he could be a really good right tackle in the league.
No
It's just me though.
I agree with you completely.
I agree as well.
Just me. All right. Well, let's move on. We want to, Aidan. I hate to do this to you, man. I know this causes feelings, man. But we've got to talk about our Cavaliers. So what's the predominant? What's the prominent thinking here, man? They didn't do very well on the road in that series, did they? We knew that was coming.
Rebounding.
Yeah. Yep. Just awful.
Can you give me a minute?
When your center gets 7 rebounds and there are 8 rebounds over the last 2 games, it's
Jared Allen had 4 rebounds each of the last 2 games.
Josh Hart out rebounded in both games.
Mitchell Robinson had more offensive rebounds than Jared Allen had rebounds in the last 2 games. Listen, I know JB could have done stuff better. I hate what he did, changing the starting lineup, going away from what got you to 51 wins. Trapping high was fine for one game. You got in to make an adjustment. Then you just whenever Jalen Brunson was one-on-one, you let him go one-on-one in the night. So you didn't help. You didn't collapse paint, what you should have done. That's what Miami did, and that's what's caused him struggles so far in this series. If you've watched, they've let him play one-on-one outside, forced him to the rim, collapsed on him, and then forced him to spray out to shooters. Yep. You live with RJ Barrett. You live with Josh Hart beating you. You don't live with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle beating you. That's what you do.
And you saw, essentially, I said our rebounding from our bigs was embarrassing, and it was. And it's not like, here's the thing, they weren't surprised by the Knicks, right? The Knicks were second in offensive rebounding percentage coming in the regular season. They were behind Houston. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew they were going to crash the boards. I mean, we can't get a body on these guys.
That was the biggest X factor in these series. Everybody talked about you can't get out rebounded by these guys, and they let it happen for 4 out of 5 games. You got beat by the worst. The team isn't as good as you. You had the best player in the series. You had the 3rd best player in the series. You probably had the 4th and the 5th if you're just looking at it from a standpoint. But then your center got outplayed by a minimum level center who's Mitchell Robinson, who was a second round pick, who went to Western Kentucky. Nobody knew about because nobody cared because he
Yep.
wasn't good. He gets in foul trouble all the time. And then Evan Mobley's getting bodied by Julius Randle every other possession. And what are we doing? Get
Yeah.
in the weight room. Show me something because I'm really not happy about this. Darius Garland had one bad game. I get that where he shot 4 for 21. He was the
Mhm.
best player in the series. Donovan
Yeah.
Mitchell, we traded 3 first-round picks for you. Where were you at? Where were you at? We had a chance to win
Yeah.
game 4. You didn't show up. You went 0 for 8 in the fourth quarter. Where were you?
Yeah.
More than that, you took the ball out of Darius' hands when he took over the third quarter in that game.
Right.
So what were you doing?
Who knows? Honestly, who
I'm
knows?
done. I'm done.
It was awful. I knew it was gonna. I knew it was gonna stir you up, man. Uh, listen, again, like I said, this wasn't a surprise. I mean, everybody knew coming in, like you said, you can't get out. You've got to be active on the boards. You've got to get bodies on the. You have to put bodies on people. You can't. I mean, I don't even have the words. We just open paths, open lanes. They crashed the boards and just kept doing it. The Cavs just stood around and watched. But it got me thinking. Like I said, I looked up. I wanted to see, where the Knicks stood regular season in offensive rebounding percentage. Like I said, um, you know, they were second in the league, just behind Houston or whatever. So it got me thinking because I'm like, it's one of these stats, right? Like what is offensive rebounding percentage? Um, I don't really know how to. I could put the equation up. It's an elaborate equation, but it's just, I tell you what, offensive rebounding percentage is what happens when you play a team that doesn't bother to box you out for 5 games, or at least 4 out of 5 games, right? Like
I mean, I was
the
watching.
more that happens, the higher that goes up. That's it.
I was watching the end of the Golden State Sacramento game 7, and
Yeah.
Sacramento forgot how to rebound the basketball as well. It's like
Yep.
that's part of basketball, right? It's like go up when the ball hits off the rim. Like you grab it, and you bring it down. Like
Yeah.
that.
It helps to get it to the other side of the floor. I said it. I mean, stops are great. Multiple stops are fantastic, but the problem is you're not touching the ball in between those stops, and that's a huge issue. Like, the defense at times was really good in that series, but they couldn't get their hands back on the ball.
Here's the thing. You're talking about getting bodies on people, and we didn't do a good job of that completely.
Yeah. At all.
Even when we did, Jared Allen was just not strong enough to move Mitchell Robinson, and Robinson moved him.
Yeah.
It's simple. He
Yep.
wasn't strong enough. Period. That's it.
Not at all.
He just wasn't big enough or strong enough. And we're going to talk about playoff atmosphere with Jared Allen. I have some Jared Allen takes that I'm going to get off my chest at some point in a different video. But
yeah,
he's on the brink for me right now. You can't get outplayed by a guy who's making a lot less money than you are, and you signed a 5-year, $100 million contract and get outplayed by that guy. I'm sorry, you can't let it happen.
That guy had 29 offensive rebounds in that series.
Yeah. So I just
wow.
I don't think you can afford to pay a guy that much if he's
And I said it last week on the show. Jared Allen at times looked like he was trying to hold a greased pig when the ball came his way. I don't know what that was about. Maybe he didn't want the ball down low. I mean, it looked like they were a little scared, honestly, to go into the paint. They looked like they knew they were going to get shoved around and just didn't want any part of it. So let me ask you this, okay? What do the Cavs do to make sure that this doesn't happen next year? I mean, how? Well, it felt like they were one piece away before this series. Now it feels like
they
more.
Kind of are. It's not one piece though. So
no,
I'll explain it. I'll try to explain it not to you. Obviously, you.
No, explain. Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Watch as much Cavs basketball. Obviously, the biggest need is a wing who can shoot it, right? We have a mid-level exception, which is about $12 million, not
$12 to get you a guy, though. Yeah, I'll do it for $12.
I will play 12 for $12.
I'm in. Yep.
But you need a guy that's a really good shooter. Also, there could be some sign-in trades, or there can be some trades. There could definitely be an Okoro plus Chetty plus a Dean or Lamar to match salaries with some picks to go along with it. To get a 3-and-D wing, I'm going to think on the high end right now if OG Anunoby's available, right? All NBA.
That'd be a great pickup,
right? But you have to, but like for the mid-level exception, I've been looking at guys like Harrison Barnes, shoots the 3 decent, 6'8", 230 pounds, can defend mostly 2, 3, 4, some ones. He would actually be a decent matchup versus Brunson. Because Brunson plays more of a he played he's a bully kind of
Yeah.
at his size. He just puts his shoulder into people. He goes around people as well. Obviously, Brunson's a really
Yeah.
good player, but
He's a good player. Yeah.
we just have to get spacing. We also have to get a better bench outside of Karis LeVert. Ricky Rubio, you hope he's better
Yeah.
after obviously his second year coming back from the torn ACL. You
Yeah.
hope
It's
that
tough. Didn't get much of anything out of him this year. Yeah.
But you hope for shooting. You look for shooting in trades in the mid-level exception, and then you go from there and you try to build out a better roster. Because the biggest failure, even though I'm killing Jared Allen and he deserves it because he played terrible, the biggest failure was you truly had 4.75 guys you could rely on,
Yeah.
and everybody else was a guy that the New York Knicks looked at and said,
Yep.
that's fine. You
Yep.
can't have that. You gotta have 6 to 7 guys in a playoff series, and then one guy that's a wild card.
Yep.
So you want really 7 guys, and then your 8th guy is a wild card in a playoff series to be able to really compete.
I think we have that wild card guy in Karis LeVert because like either he's really
Yeah,
good or
he's
LeVert. He's streaky.
Yeah. LeVert did play really well in this series. I'll give it.
He did.
He was really good.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He was a wild card.
Yeah.
Like he's either really good or he can't do anything.
No, but
so
you're
it's like you said, we need another. We need the guys in between him and our starters that can fill in when he's not scoring.
Or your 5th starter has to be a floor spacer.
Yeah.
And a guy that can play defense. It's as simple as that. You can't have Isaac's a good defender. You want to know a fun stat? The closest defender on his average 3-point attempts was 9 feet away from him. That is the farthest in the NBA.
Okay.
Farthest in the NBA. So
what do you attribute that to? Good scheme, good athleticism to get away from people. What is that?
No, just he doesn't get away from people. He stands in the corner and they don't respect him, so they let him.
There you go. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's exactly what the Cavs need. The Cavs don't need a guy that can create. That's why I asked it that way.
Yeah,
the Cavs don't need a guy that can create his own. They just need a guy to literally stand. Kevin Love to stand in the corner, right? Space the floor, hit some threes. Kevin Love can't play any defense anymore. That's not the answer there. But I just mean for the offensive, perspective.
Yeah,
a guy like Kevin Love.
The spacing is the most important thing for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland.
Yeah.
Because without that, you're getting help over everybody. Like every time, like Donovan and Darius might beat their guy, there's a guy at the elbow who's guarding a guy in the corner.
Yeah.
That just can't happen.
Yeah. They don't even have to pay attention to him, like you said. Yeah.
And you just live with the results from that because Isaac Okoro shot 35% from 3 for the season with the closest defender 9 feet away. Listen, I can't do a lot of things. You give me an off season to shoot with a defender 9 feet away in the NBA, just in the corner, I'll shoot better than 35%.
I think I can hit 40% of those. I think I can do it.
I'll put money on it.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not saying Isaac's a bad player. Obviously, Obviously, he'd kill me. What we need is not what he's given us offensively. Defensively, he's obviously very good. But
listen, I could go back to my athletic prime and play Okoro one-on-one 100 times, and I might score once. Right? I mean, we're not saying, I'm not saying he's bad, but he's just not exactly the perfect fit. You know what I mean? For what they need. That's all.
It's just hard.
Yeah,
it's just hard. You got to find the right guy.
Yep.
So let's just kind of recap the season then. I mean, Cavs 51-31, 4th seed in the East. It felt really good. I don't know, looking at the East, if they can even really, it's not automatic that they're going to get back to the 4th seed next year. Let's put it that way. First round loss to the Knicks in 5. Is the season a failure?
The season is a failure, yes. Yeah. But what is good, a lot of young teams got to fail before they can be great.
Exactly.
Yes. So there's steps to it, is what you're saying.
There's always steps, right?
Okay.
The Cavs getting back to the 4th seed, I think that's pretty obtainable.
Me too. I think I think your top 3 probably won't change next year. The Bucks, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia.
Yeah, but it all.
I don't know. I think the Knicks look like they could be a top 3 seed.
The Knicks look like they could be a top 3 seed. You don't know if Harden's coming back. He's a free agent.
That is true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Boston looks kind of like they're going through some stuff internally. You just don't know. Obviously, the Bucks are going to be back. If Giannis, listen, the Jimmy Butler story is a great story. If Giannis ever gets hurt, the series is over in 5 games, and the Bucks are in the second round.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Giannis because we're talking about the season, whether it's a failure, and obviously we're talking about sports failure, right? So I think Giannis had a pretty interesting perspective after that series. They lost 4-1 as well. That's a 1 seed losing to an 8. I mean, that feels probably like a much more massive sports failure than what happened to the Cavs. Even though I think it was a little bit different because it was injury related. The Cavs it sort of looked like that series looked like a lack of effort. Might have caused the loss. But yeah, Giannis, I just thought he had a really interesting perspective when asked about this same exact thing, if their season was a failure. And I just want to play the video. I want to listen to it. It's just a couple minutes long, and I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on it real quick.
I'm curious for you. Do you view this season as a failure?
Oh my God. Okay, because I'm not that up. You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Okay. Do you get a promotion every year on your job? No, right? So every year you work is a failure. Yes or no? No. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal, right? Which is to get a promotion, to be able to take care of your family, to be able, I don't know, provide a house for them or take care of your parents. You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success, And if you've never, I don't want to make it personal. So there's always steps to it, Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure. That's what you're telling me. I'm asking you a question. Yes or no? Okay, exactly. So why you asking me that question? It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful. Some days you're not. Some days it's your turn. Some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's gonna win. And this year somebody else is gonna win. Simple as that. We're gonna come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have 10 days stretch with playing bad basketball, and hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one. Sorry that I didn't want to make it personal because you asked me the same question last year, and last year I was in the right mind space to answer the question back, but I remember it.
I mean, what are your thoughts, guys? Aidan, what do you think?
I think he
Or Ben?
he handled that. The way he handled that question was very professional. He could have just walked off and not even answered. Because like he said, you asked me this last year.
Yeah, a lot of guys would have.
Yeah, and
a lot of guys wouldn't have even shown up. Dylan Brooks wouldn't have even shown up, right?
And I think the way he answered it, and the examples he gave, I think are perfect. Like every year, like especially in a team sport, like you're building towards winning a championship. Like some years you might not win one, some years you might.
Yep.
And it, like he said, like could be 50 years from now they win a championship.
Yep.
Does that mean in between were failures? No, like they were building up to that championship. Like I think it's all about just like he said, some days you have good days, you have bad days, you have bad weeks, bad months. That's what sports is.
I agree.
If you knew what you were going to get every single day, sports wouldn't be fun to watch.
It wouldn't be entertaining at all. And Aidan, we got about a minute. What are your thoughts on this, man?
It's just the truth. I mean, you see it. Yeah. I mean, it happened to Giannis, right? He lost to Kawhi in the Eastern Conference Finals. He lost to Miami the next year, and then the year after that, they won the championship.
Yeah.
There's just steps to success. Cavs go from a play-in team to a first-round team. Next year, they try to go to a second-round team. There's steps to success, and success isn't always linear.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. I know that it's a cliche and it's corny and all that, but it's
right.
true.
It is.
But it's a cliche because a cliche is something that's overused, right? And it's overused because it's true. I mean, it's the truth. It's the absolute truth.
Like my life is not going the way I wanted to, but I'm building towards something. And one
Same.
day I might get stuck down, and I have to get back up, but then I get to take a step forward.
Right.
So that's just how life is.
You just keep getting back up.
Yeah.
You get knocked down. And listen, I disagree with one thing that he said. Okay, I think there is failure in sports, but I don't think it's on the same level as failure in general, I guess. think about like the two worst sports failures that come to my mind when I think of this, right? Scott Norwood missing the field goal for the Bills that would have won the Super Bowl. Bill Buckner, missing the ground ball. The Mets go on to win the World Series, whatever. Were those things bad? Yeah, they were terrible. They were sports failures, right? But at the end of the day, here's what it is. Multi-million dollar, almost billion-dollar organizations, maybe not, in Bill Buckner's case, they were worth a little less back then. And even in the Bills, it was the 90s, but now they're very expensive. Those organizations trusted those players to put them out there in their biggest moments, right? I think that's relative success. In sports, you're never going to be successful 100% of the time. No one's ever done it in any sport ever. You might have one wrestler somewhere that's maybe had an undefeated career. I don't know. That's an individual sport. Team sports just don't work like that.
Right.
So I disagree in the fact that I think there is failure, but I agree in the fact that it's just not that big of a deal. I mean, sometimes it's your day, sometimes it's not. It's how sports go, right?
Yeah. And one more thing,
Yeah.
It can be viewed as a failure, but there's also so many other little failures that led up to that failure too.
Yeah.
There's other plays, other situations like Giannis getting hurt in game one, then they lose game one.
Yeah.
Are they losing that game one if Giannis doesn't get hurt at Milwaukee? Probably not.
Probably not.
He misses game 2 and 3. They lose.
Yeah.
It's just life. Like everything doesn't go your way. And that's more of the circumstance than just failure. It didn't go my way. And that'll happen. That's life.
Sometimes it doesn't go your way. Well, listen, we hope it went your way. I mean, we don't ever want to fail you to bring, we don't want to fail to bring you guys a great show, but we're almost an hour in, man. We got to get out of here today. So listen, for Aidan Vance and Ben Bales, I'm Chad Bryan. Guys, say goodbye.
Peace out.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.